Hi, and welcome to Compensation Management with me, Professor K. It is Sunday, February 19th, and we are going to recap modules 1 and 2. The takeaway from module 1 primarily is the understanding that the pay model that you can find on page 20, Exhibit 1.5, is comprised of three basic building blocks to create an overall framework. The first building block is the objectives. The second building block is the policies. And the third building block are the pay techniques that you can use. Now, the book lists these from left to right as pay technique, policies, and objectives. But in real life, I think what we find most effective is to do backwards planning, to figure out what objectives you want to achieve, what policies need to be in place to achieve those objectives, and then last, we could plan what type of pay that we would like to offer in order to achieve the ultimate objectives. So a good example of this is exactly what we've been discussing in Medtronic and the different types of pay that help Medtronic attract and retain the best talent. The other thing that is an important takeaway is that we also can think of the pay model as a living system where each building block is interdependent with the others. And as you change one, it will have a ripple effect on the others. So it's never a static system. And each time that you want to adjust to the market, you're going to make changes throughout the entire system. So that's an important takeaway. That is a concept that most people don't think about, especially when they're negotiating for their own pay increase or for a different pay band. Often that the employee doesn't realize that there are policies and there are objectives which will naturally be impacted. And one thing we can think about is unit level and organizational level budgets. Those are types of what we might want to consider as upstream ramifications. So then the takeaway we want for module 2 then is to really understand the 4 steps that are involved in developing the total compensation strategy. And the first step is to assess the implications. This means that you want to try and proactively consider the impact on stakeholders. And this is a wide variety of stakeholders, from the HR department to the employees to the corporate culture. Second, we want to be able to map that strategy. And when you think about mapping the strategy, think of that pay model and the flow back and forth between objective and pay techniques. Third, we want to think about implementation of that strategy and realize that when we do implement this, we take into consideration that this is a living system where the ripple effect does change the impact on those stakeholders. And fourth, once we develop the strategy, we want to consistently reassess its effectiveness. And when we look at module 1 and module 2 in totality, then the takeaway that we understand is that a compensation system, a total compensation system, is actually a very effective tool. Now, if you think about a tool in itself is inactive. It does nothing. Think about a hammer as a tool. Well, the idea is that if you are going to use a tool, you have to have somebody in charge of the tool. That would be you as a compensation manager. And what you bring to the table is you bring your experience and your personality. And those are filters or lenses through which you view the information that is flowing from the higher levels of the organization that are responsible for formulating the objectives and the policies. And what I like to leave you with in terms of those three components of the tool, your experience, and your personality is that the system then provides the person who wields that tool, in essence, power. And when we think about power, it doesn't mean a nefarious power. It means a power to change things, a power to be a change agent. And so you may be a change agent on behalf of the C-suite, but nonetheless, that puts you in a position to make sure that the objectives, such as equal pay for equal work, are achieved. And that is the basic recap and takeaways from modules 1 and 2. Thank you.